Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mole in Space, your Starfield podcast. My name is ChaosMole, and today we do a very special episode. But before we do this, quick announcement, actually multiple announcements. First things first, this is my, first podcast episode after I returned from the hospital. And if you're like, wait, what? Hospital? What happened? That's the reason why we didn't really had like that many Starfield videos or videos in general, because from the night on Tuesday to Wednesday, I had I did some workout, right, and I did just throw my back out like so badly. I apparently had like some specific like muscle parts just being like squished between like bones, and something your body shouldn't do. Let's just say that. So I was going in because I have never felt that much pain in my life. It was really, really bad. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't lay down. Like, it was bad. So I was going in, and they fixed it. Right, thankfully, they were just like, yeah, we can fix that. It's not too bad. And then they were just like poking me with a needle, giving me some painkillers, like the really good stuff, because the pain was just like, oh my god. Nonetheless, they sent me home like the same day, right? And they were just like, yeah, just lay down, like don't do anything, especially don't do works out. Here is like a prescription for all the painkillers you take in the meantime, and muscle relaxation and whatnot. Try to do that. And then I was just lying in bed. And the worst part is, most of the time I wasn't sleepy. I wasn't really like knocked out. I was just lying in bed watching watching something on my phone. And I did that till like Saturday, I think. Saturday evening where was like the first thing where it finally like slowed down a little bit, and it got much better. And then on Sunday I could actually do a stream. And oh boy, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And I couldn't sit. Like, sitting was just the worst. I was alright for a walk, so I could sometimes like go up and then take a walk here next to my park. And but I couldn't sit. Like, I wanted to do actually a review on Dune, the new Dune game for my Mo Under Management channel, but I couldn't do that because I couldn't sit. I just couldn't sit, man. And so yeah, same with everything Starfield related. I barely played that week. Well, yeah. Now I'm back and we're here. But next week we will talk a little bit about story. We will take a look at the main story of the game, because I actually want to talk about it and how it feels. And then I also like want to talk about like some of the other bigger quests in the game. So there will be some spoilery-esque. It will not be a complete one-to-one spoiler, so you will not know every single detail, but be prepared for that as well. But this week I want to do something very different. So I want to do a bad mouth episode. What's that supposed to mean? Well, that means I would talk a lot about just issues this game has, failures, and just shortcomings this game has. Now you might say, wow, okay, so clickbait 90% of YouTube or what? No, 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 no. This is why this is a special episode. I actually hate this. I hate this in so many podcasts, especially the longer they go. They basically become podcasts about complaining. They're complaining about this part of the game, they're complaining about that part of the game. And don't get me wrong, that's fine. But if you have like 20 episodes where it's just, oh, shit, oh, this game, oh. It's like, why are you doing this? Right? Like, what? Do you really have nothing positive for this game anymore? If that is the case, why are you still playing it? Right? And it's just so unfortunate, you know. And I don't like to do that. I sometimes like to talk about an issue or two which I find by playing the game, right? But this episode, I just want to get it all out of the system, right? Like getting it all out there. And then when we are done with it, we are going back to interesting talking points in Starfield, because there's a lot. So with that said, if you don't like that, you can just tune out. You don't have to listen to all the shortcomings this game has. And then you can just basically return next week when we are talking about the positive aspects of Starfield again. So with that said, let's jump into the Badmouth episode, shall we? So I have now over 100 hours in Starfield, and funny enough, this is one of my older save files I had to load. And why I had to do that is pretty simple, because I joined the Crimson Fleet, and I'm doing a lot of bad things right now. I'm not welcomed in any of the settled systems, and everyone, I think, especially the Freestar Collective here, has like a bounty of like 80,000 credits already on me, and it's growing. So had to reload this one, but it's completely fine, right? So bad mouthing. Okay, first things first. I think this is the most obvious one we can talk about, is the interface. I know I made a video about it, but for a game where, at least from a pure like feeling perspective, you are 50% of the time managing some interface, it is ass. It is so bad. Like, I remember back in the day, and I really mean like over a decade ago, I remember when Paradox actually started to really redesign their interface, to give them a facelift and to bring them up to date, to make them easily readable and make them also like snappy. And it was I think it was Europa Universalis 4 who started to do that. And especially like Hearts of Iron 4 was like the first, let's say, new Paradox interface, like completely new, where they took a step forward. Like they had like unified interfaces for their games for quite some time, and it wasn't always snappy. But definitely Hearts of Iron 4 was like the first game where you just realized, wow, they did a glow up. And I remember back in the day where people were just like, why are you doing this? For what reason exactly? Like, what? Dude, I can manage. Like, we will figure out the interface. And now, after all those years, I get it. And I think everyone gets it who played Paradox games. This was necessary because it makes it so much easier, because you are handling interfaces 24/7 in those games. And there is a similar thing here in this game, right? When you were checking like the interface, like moving through the planets, if you were jumping a lot, the whole thing is just meh. The same goes with the inventory interface, right? Like, I'm using a mod already. I'm using a mod to make it like kind of convenient for me, and it's still not great. It still has a lot of issues, and it's just, Bethesda, how did you screw it up that much? Like, we all know, interfaces, UI, have never been your strong suit, and you unfortunately unloaded all of those issues on the mod creators. But Starfield, I would go so far to say that Starfield is the worst interface of all the Bethesda games I've ever seen. It has now been over 7 years since Fallout 4, which was the last next step in the Bethesda franchise, right? Like, Fallout 76 was just Fallout 4 reskinned. And, well, whatever. And you think 7 years after that, they took a step forward, but everything is just, it doesn't feel good. Like, the same thing, like changing your home ship, right? Like, you have to go to an NPC, you have to do it from there. It's super inconvenient, which is kind of crazy because you can repair. I'm in the city and I can just repair this ship. I don't have to go to an NPC for it. but you cannot switch your home ship, right? And it's this, wait, what? Why? It's such a bizarre thing to do, right? I cannot just go here and then say, okay, make this my home ship. I cannot do that. And it's such a bizarre thing to do. And there's so many, like, check my video out. It's down below in the video description if you haven't yet. And it's just bad. I'm sorry. It's just bad. Another thing, speaking of the interface, another thing I'm not really sure how I feel about is the challenges for your items. Like, especially at the beginning, you have too many points, but not enough challenges completed. And then the longer the game goes, it completely swaps around. You have so many challenges completed, but you don't have enough points. I mean, you can see it right here, right? So many things which I could technically upgrade, and I just don't have the points for it, right? So I feel like the whole leveling speed, the rhythm on how you are improving your character it's just not there, right? Like at the beginning, you have a bunch of skill points, but you don't have the challenges yet. And then out of nowhere, the longer you play, it's the other way around. Of course, there is always like some of the skills where I feel like the last point is a bit of a waste, like security. Security, like the reason why I didn't get rank for security is pretty simple because it doesn't really do anything. You can expand the digipick to eliminate the keys that aren't required to solve the puzzle. Okay, I can figure that out myself, not really an issue. Plus, I'm not spending a digipick, screw you. And you can bang 5 auto attempts. I'm not really using the auto attempt system really too much. Like, this feels so useless for me. Like, there are some... the longer I play, the more it becomes clear to me like which skills are really good and which skills are rather forgettable, right? Carrying capacity is, I think, weightlifting is the most important one, right? Scavenging, I feel like that's not really like a necessity anymore at a certain point. Melee, oh boy, like the boost pack is super important, at least having 1 point in it, like that's like a must-have. Piloting, we would talk about that when we are talking about the main story, but they force the ship fight on you at some point, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, they're just some skills which are super duper important. Like this one here, the research thing. I don't really think it's like super important, but everything else is like again, they definitely did a better job than they did in the previous Bethesda games when it comes to the leveling and the feeling of okay, somebody thought about it, right? It's definitely an improvement, but there are still a few things here and there where it just feels not good, right? So melee combat. Let's talk about melee combat here for a minute. I am... Oh yeah, I was looking for it. Sorry. I am so disappointed because I already have another weapon in the actual game I'm playing, where I'm a pirate. I'm so disappointed by the melee combat in this game. It's so bad. It is clear that this feature was put into the game way late. And if it wasn't, if I'm like talking bullshit here right now, talking out of my ass, then I have to say what happened to this feature. What did go wrong with melee combat in the end? Right? Like, what happened to this? You see it already in the stats when you were looking at this weapon. and you see all the stats, and then you're going to the melee weapon and it's just, oh yeah, well, damage. Right. Like, they even, oh my god. So I did some testing for another video which is coming out this week where I'm doing a deep dive into all the weapon stats, how damage is coming together, and so on and so forth. Like, it's really, really cool number video if you were interested. But they even equalize the attack speed of all the melee weapons. So let's say the katana here, or the wakizashi, attacks every second once. Does 3 attacks, then there's a second cooldown, rinse and repeat. If you are now using like a dagger or something for shanking, right? Same thing. They have all the 1 attack per second speed. It's like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that a shank, a little dagger, is attacking as slow as a swing you are taking with your katana? But how? Why? And in the end, the only thing which matters is the damage. That's the only thing which matters at that point. Because when one of your daggers, which that is the next weird thing, the daggers are doing less damage, right? And if you have like a dagger and you find this weapon, it's like, yeah, you're taking this weapon because it has higher damage, because you're not attacking faster. There is just nothing there. And again, it's really unfortunate. Like, melee stuff is not great. The perks are not great for it. It takes far too long to get melee up. Like, even sneaking is not great, because you have to get too close. It puts you sometimes in a very bad position, and you don't have a lot of ways of getting out of it unharmed. It's just, I think this is the first time where they wanted to have melee weapons in this game. They wanted to have stealth in this game. And they always wondered if they should really do it. Like, stealth with range weapons, that's fine. That works. Get a sniper rifle, get a silencer on it, and have fun, right? It works. You will see great results. But moving in, it is far too hard to get sneaking going. And if you want to see my video on it, it's also here on the channel. I can put it down in the video description if you want. But it's just, it takes far too much effort, far too many points to get this going. Like, you can see it when you were going into my skills, and I put so many points into here. I have stealth up. I have concealment up, right? Like, I'm much further into concealment already than I'm like on this character. But like, not only do you have to get stealth on level 4, which is really hard because you have to do stealth attacks, and if you want to do it a melee, don't do it, cheese it. There's a cheese on it. Just get a silenced weapon and attack from far away. And the enemy goes like, oh, that's weird. I'm getting shot in the head. I don't know where that happens, so I don't care. You know, if you're like, wait a minute, wasn't that also in Fall? Yes. Yes, they have the same problem. Martial arts. This is such a weird thing. This is such a weird thing. Also, it's bugged. By the way, I cannot increase this any further because I cannot punch anymore. I cannot punch anymore. But you increase the crit chance on your melee or unarmed attack, but the only way to get this up is using your fists. And I'm like, why? Especially because in concealment, you have to perform 30 melee or unarmed sneak attacks. So it's like, I can do both. Why can I not just, like, you know, do that here with the martial arts? Such a weird thing. Again, melee takes far too long to get it up and running. The same goes with stealth. And I have to admit, I'm a bit sick of it. You know, I am a bit sick of it, and I don't use melee too often, especially on the harder difficulty. I don't have the luxury. I don't have the luxury of going in with a melee attack. Like, even with heavy armor, even with getting, like, what is it, 15 or 20% less damage when I have a melee weapon out, plus another, like, what is it, 15% less damage from all attacks, you are still dying far too quickly. And you're also getting, like, knocked around quite a bit. Again, it's melee just feels like something they added far too late into the life cycle of this game. And they have to do quite a bit of work, or modders have to do quite a bit of work. You can also not upgrade your melee weapons. And it just adds up. Similar problem, speaking of adding up, ship combat. My god. Like, ship combat, if you are not using the cheese tactic, which is starting the Vanguard, the UC Vanguard main mission, where you can go into the simulator, and then through the simulator, you can, like, just mindlessly upping your ship level, right? It's a cheese tactic, but it's better than doing it manually. Because manually you have to find the ships you can shoot down. They are sometimes so much stronger than you will ever be. And it's just a pain in the ass. Like, when you have figured out how the shipbuilding works, actually, I think it's pretty good. Well, it's smooth. Let's just say it's smooth, right? I like the shipbuilding. It's like Lego. Again, if you have figured it out, it's actually, like, pretty simple to manage. But getting there and getting your ship going, you need a lot of points for it. And then it's still, like, a random chance, which doesn't even happen that often. Like, the difference between joining the Crimson Fleet and not joining the Crimson Fleet is insane when it comes to the ship combat. And we will definitely talk about that when I'm making another video about the Crimson Fleet and the ship combat. But yeah, that also feels like half unfinished. The loading screens, I notice them more. I hope it's not too weird, but I definitely notice the loading screens more because I'm doing so much more, right? I'm doing so much more with interfaces and jumping from planet to planet and from galaxy to galaxy, and well, it's actually not from galaxy to galaxy. That's not right. Sorry, from planetary system to planetary system. My bad. I've not unlocked Starfield 2, but we are jumping into a new galaxy, a star system. There we go. But it's just like, man, I just realized how many little loading screens there are, and it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, right? So yeah, there's definitely something which annoys me a little bit more. Also, I have to say, the more I'm thinking about the Outpost, the more I'm realizing that I'm missing a bit of the what for. Like, sure, if you're somebody who loves the building and have time for it, sure. But at some point, when you have managed to get, like if people say, oh yeah, you do it for weapon crafting, suit crafting, you don't need an outpost for that. And frankly speaking, the resources you gain through your outpost are massive in comparison to the amount of resources you need to upgrade your stuff. Like, I haven't fully figured out yet what the outpost is there for. That's like another problem I'm struggling with right now. But I think the interface is the biggest issue. And the more I'm looking at some of the things, you know what I'm also realizing? That this schmuck is not doing its job. Hey, clean the floor, dude. No. One of the things I really realized is one of the more like issues, right? And how many, and it just did steal something, that was not my intention. How many systems are in the place? They are half unfinished, or they are not fully fledged out. And they feel like Bethesda at some point just said, you know what? Let a modder fix this. A modder can fix this. Oh, we didn't finish this one? It doesn't matter. Let the modders do their thing. Okay, but this is not really too great. Yeah, don't sweat it. A modder will fix this. And they have this too often. Like as I said, with the interface. Like the modder who actually did the inventory thing, he was literally just like, oh yeah, it's an INI file you were swapping out, and I basically changed just a few things. Like he was not sitting down and did some like huge interface rework. He was literally just changing a few things in the INI files, and he was like, yeah, this is what we got. I was like, dude, are you shitting me? So you were saying you did this in an hour? And this is already such a better interface. Like even with a controller, it's so much easier to just utilize this, right? And it's like, wait a minute, what? But how did nobody at Bethesda like realize that? This is not like a opinion about what do you like more, vanilla or chocolate ice cream. This is like literally just, this is mint ice cream, it's bad. No. I'm joking here. No, seriously, it's bad. No, like the interface is just, who greenlit this? And who was okay with this? Right? It feels like Bethesda has a certain amount of time for every feature they're putting into the game, right? They're putting in a feature, and then they're like, okay, this is a feature we would definitely have in the game. You have now 2 weeks to make it snappy, to make it work. And when the 2 weeks are over, you move on to the next thing you're working on. And they just did that, right? 2 weeks are over. Oh, the interface is still shit. Well, I have to go to the next project. Let's move on. And it's so bizarre because you feel that so often in the game. And yeah, it will be like every Bethesda game where you are just downloading a lot of mods. And not just mods which add new features. Like this is the crazy part. Whenever I think about modding, I think about what a modder can actually add to the game. Some new features, some new content, or improve like a few things are here. But here or there. Here or here, yeah, lol. But my point is, modding shouldn't be there to fix all your shortcomings. I know I'm doing this sometimes with very old games. When I'm playing like a game which is 20 or even more years old, I'm like, alright, let's play this 25-year-old game. What type of mods do I need to make this run? What type of mods do I need that it doesn't completely suck to play in the year 2022? And you do the same thing with Bethesda games. Like, I have mods installed. I had mods installed basically 2 days after the release of this game, or not even release, in early access. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen in a game. Sorry. And that people are still like, yeah, but that is how Bethesda games are. Can we please stop that? Making excuses for this kind of stuff? Because, especially in Starfield, as somebody who has been playing Bethesda games since Morrowind, I think this particular saying of a modder will fix this emboldened Bethesda with Starfield to leave some stuff just untouched. And I think it's the game where they just did it the most. Like, with all the issues Bethesda always had, I don't really see an improvement in any of those areas. Like, this is why some people call this game Fallout in space, or just a Fallout copy. Is it a Fallout copy? No. No, it isn't. It's its own game. But a lot of the shortcomings other Bethesda games had before are just returning. They're celebrating their triumphant return, and I don't know. Now, I want to end this on a positive note. After all this complaining, I want to end this on a positive note. Right? But Mo, you said this is a purely bad mouth episode. Yeah, I still want to end it on a positive note, though. Bethesda has pushed out an announcement thingy, like a PR statement thingy, right? A community update. There we go. I was looking for the word. They pushed out a community update, and they said, "Hey, folks, listen. Thank you very much for joining us. Yada yada yada. But we also listen. Like, we want to add features, we want to improve features, like you can eat instead of picking up things immediately. Like, that is one of the crazy part, that they cannot just hold down and eat this, right? Like, they want to put that in. They want to put in DLSS because, well, I'm using a mod for it. And like, they have definitely announced a few things they want to put in. So they're definitely listening. And I'm hoping that Starfield is actually the first Bethesda game where Bethesda is putting some time in. Like, look at Fallout 4. Look at Skyrim even. Well, till they did the Anniversary Edition. But those games are a prime example of Bethesda just pushing out their 2 or 3 DLCs, and it's already set what's in those DLCs, and they are not reacting on any of the shortcomings, and then they just move on to the next project. And it seems like this time they want to take more time with Starfield. They want to make sure that there is at least a small team taking care of this game at any given moment. And that's good, because let's ignore Fallout 76, okay? Let's ignore that for a second here. Fallout 4 came out 7 years ago. Actually, we are pretty close to 8 years. And they did push out DLCs for, like, was it 1 year? 1 year and a half or something like that, but didn't do anything else. That meant for at least 6 to 7 years, Bethesda did nothing with Fallout, and there was not another game to bridge that gap. And again, ignoring Fallout 76 here for obvious reasons. Like, what do you think will happen with Elder Scrolls? They announced that Elder Scrolls is now in production. Yay. But that also means come back in 5 years. maybe 6 years. And Starfield has basically like have to keep it up, right? So I'm hoping they're fixing quite a bit of the shortcomings. We will see what they have learned from Fallout 76 and the other games. And yeah, again, this game has issues. Do I enjoy it? Yes. Do I enjoy the world? Yes. But I'm also not blind to the problems this game has. But with that said, that was the Bad Mouth episode. And next week, we are back to more positive matters. With that said, thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to check out the other videos if you haven't yet. If you enjoyed it, please also leave a like and also subscribe to the channel. I would very much appreciate it. We are doing more than just Starfield here. We are also doing some Diablo sometimes and some other games like, believe it or not, Cyberpunk is coming up. And I have some plans for that. So again, if you enjoy RP games, make sure to subscribe to the channel. With that said, I will see you next weekend. Next week on Monday, not weekend. Next week on Monday for another Mole in Space episode. With that said, stay safe. Bye-bye.